Our previous episode saw a roller coaster of chaos for both sides of the Peloponnesian War. Despite being stretched thin from rebellions in the Aegean and a chaotic campaign in Aetolia, Athens was able to inflict a humiliating defeat for Sparta in Pylos and Sphacteria through innovative tactics, superior naval power, and luck. Athens was now on the offensive, and the first phase of the Peloponnesian conflict was reaching its end. Welcome to our video on the final battles of the Archidamian War, and the eventual Peace of Nicaeas that followed. Yes, even the largest wars come to an end one way or another, but what if they didn't? There's a never-ending war that you can join right now via our sponsor Million Lords. This is an MMORTS, meaning it's a constant real-time war between real players that never ends. The game focuses entirely on war, so you spend less time building towns or managing things, and more time on military strategy and war with your neighbours. You're aiming to conquer territory points and hold them until the end of a season, which is 15 real-world days. Then the map resets and the war cycles on forever, but based on your performance you get gear and skills that allow you to improve yourself each time and try new units and strategies. But the league system means you still face rivals suitable for your current progress. This cycle of resets means the conflict is always building for an intense battle to secure control each season. But don't just fight by yourself, you can do real diplomacy with other players to create clans and share your achievements. The game is getting a new 3D update, so now's a better time than ever to join the endless real-time war of Million Lords. It's available on iOS and Android, so grab the game for free via our link in the description. Then use our promo code on the screen to grab a load of in-game rewards for free using the promo code button in the settings menu. Enjoy! While Athens was fighting Sparta in Pylos and Sphacteria, it was simultaneously planning further expeditions. Boeotia, the region of Greece that neighbours Attica, was home to many cities which were rivals of Athens, such as Thebes and Megara. After his smashing success in Sphacteria, Cleon, the infamous populist and ruthless warmonger of the Athenians, was re-elected into power in 424 BC alongside his colleague Demosthenes. Many scholars have seen this as a victory for the warhawks of Athens. However, the election of Nicaeas and Thucydides showed that conservative restraint was still popular amongst the Athenian people. A campaign was decided against Boeotia in 424 BC. Still, before that, the Athenians decided to attack the Perioeci of the Spartans at Kythera, an island off the coast of the Peloponnese. The Athenian fleet subdued Kythera easily, and then proceeded to build forts and station garrisons on the island as staging grounds to attack the Peloponnese. Further west, Athenian fortunes were faring more poorly. The attack on Sicily in 425 BCE succeeded only in taking the city of Messina, while a continued onslaught from the army of Syracuse reduced the Athenians to a defensive position. As such, Athens focused most of their military efforts on the campaign in Boeotia. One of their main targets was Megara, a city which had suffered from annual Athenian invasions into their countryside, much like the Peloponnesian League had done to Attica. The economic turmoil this had caused Megara had resulted in civil conflict in the city between democratic and oligarchic factions, which Athens adroitly exploited. The democratic faction, unable to trust the Peloponnesian League and fearful of a coup, turned to Athens for support. They claimed that if Athens could break through the long walls connecting Megara to the Peloponnesian League garrison town of Nicaea, then they would surrender Megara to the Atticans. Athens set out to do just that, coming in from Minoa and appearing at night with its allies. The gates were opened and the port at Nicaea was blockaded. This was easy enough, but the Athenians had opposition ahead, for nearby in Boeotia, the well-known Spartan general Brasidas was camped. When Brasidas got word of the Athenian play for Megara, he sent word throughout the cities of Boeotia. They immediately amassed 2,700 hoplites from Corinth, 700 from Sicyon, and 400 from Phlius, and marched towards the city. By the time they had arrived, Athens had taken Nicaea's interior and had taken the local Spartan garrison hostage. Brasidas did not try to take back Nicaea, instead settling on Megara's outskirts, waiting for the inevitable Athenian withdrawal. Initially, the Megarians did not admit Brasidas into their city, but eventually they relented. According to Thucydides, Brasidas did not attack immediately because it would make Athens retreat into Nicaea and face fewer losses. As such, they continued in a standoff until the Athenians finally decided to retreat. Soon after, Megara faced an oligarchic resurgence, which expelled the traitorous Democrats who had sided with Athens. Megara would remain a staunch Spartan ally for the rest of the Peloponnesian Wars, a testament to the truth of politics. Without local support, no outsider can gain effective control over a territory. Athens had a lot on its plate with its Boeotian campaign. Demosthenes and Hippocrates initially hoped to attack on two fronts, one by sea and one by land. A good landing for a naval invasion was the city of Phocis in southern Greece, a part of Boeotia allied to Sparta. Phocis had a shore on the Corinthian Gulf, making it ideal for controlling communications and supplies from the Peloponnese to Boeotia proper. Demosthenes was in cahoots with some Phocians who were aligned with the Athenians, with whom he hoped to take the city like how they'd planned to take Megara. He thus prepared his troops in conjunction with Hippocrates, who was to launch a land attack on Delium. However, in Phocis, someone had revealed the existence of the pro-Athenian saboteurs to the pro-Spartan government. Thus, Demosthenes was not allowed to disembark in Phocis proper, and instead headed to the land of Siphae further down the Corinthian Gulf. This made things much harder for the Athenians, and they lost valuable time. Hippocrates fared no better, for now he had to march to Delium alone. Delium was a small city that lay in a strategically important location. In addition, it was near a temple of Apollo and the city of Tanagra. Hippocrates raised a large landed army against the Peloponnese and Boeotian troops in the region. This following battle was notorious for its length and ferocity, given it had both active combat and a siege of the small town and its fortifications. Eventually, the Athenians lost both their commander and the contest. By now, both sides of the war were overstretched, and the public mood was on the route to peace. However, this would still need some time to mature, and many long-term wartime strategies were still at play. In 423 BCE, a one-year truce was established so both sides could lick their wounds and try to establish peace later down the line. One battle demonstrating this shift towards a ceasefire involves Thucydides himself, that of Amphipolis, which unfolded principally in 422 BCE. Amphipolis is a city in Thrace which was important for its silver mines. In 424 BCE, while Delium was amid struggles between the warring leagues, Brasidas stormed north into Thrace and besieged the city, which General Eucles defended. Initially, the Spartans surrounded the city and tried to get traitors to let them in, but they found no such dissenters among the Amphiporine ranks. Eucles sent forth a messenger for the port town of Aeon, where our historian extraordinaire stayed with his army. Brasidas knew that Thucydides was a famous regional general who would ignite Amphipolis' resolve to fight. So the Spartan general cut a deal before his Athenian counterpart arrived. He asked the Amphipolitans to either stay and keep their full properties, or leave within 5 days and take their property with them. After much deliberation, the city surrendered a few hours before Thucydides arrived. Thucydides was held fully responsible for the loss and was exiled from Athens. He stayed in Thrace and began to write the account of the war we are discussing now. The 423 BCE truce enabled all currently occupied lands to be kept by those who occupied it, including Amphipolis. Brasidas managed to capture Scione before the truce was concluded, which was also included in the treaty. Eventually, the truce ended, causing Athens to grow concerned for its silver mines and grain supplies coming in from its allies in the Bosporus, which was very much near Amphipolis. To that end, the hawkish Cleon resolved to retake the city for the glory of Athens, amassing a naval expedition which managed to retake Scione before reaching Amphipolis. Meanwhile, Brasidas had built up Spartan strength by continuing his campaign in places not covered by the treaty. Amassing 1,200 hoplites and 300 cavalry and 30 ships, he quickly retook Scione. He seized the town of Toroni before positioning himself in the city of Aeon. the port where 2 years prior Thucydides was settled. Brasidas then took his troops and moved to the area, appearing on the site of Cerdylium, having both the high ground and a view of Athenian troops and Amphipolis itself. Brasidas and Cleon were now at a standoff, waiting for the other to move. Brasidas' force had now grown to 2,000 hoplites, 300 Greek cavalry, 1,000 local peltasts, Edon's army, and 1,500 Thracian mercenaries. Thucydides' account of what unfolded next became increasingly clouded as the two armies waited. According to the historian, the Athenian troops did not trust their commander Cleon not to act impulsively, and became impatient and disgruntled. Thus, Cleon agreed to take the troops and inspect the city. The modern historian Donald Kagan disagrees with Thucydides and believes that Cleon's real strategy was to inspect the city while waiting for his Thracians to arrive. That way they could retake the city easily by encirclement. Brasidas himself must have been waiting for a possible siege and wanted to have hidden troops for a strike from the bag. Brasidas decided to take 150 of his best men and personally led them straight into the Athenian center. They were to act as a sort of vanguard, working from the southward gate of the city, while his second-in-command, Clearidas, was to organize himself and his troops in the northern part of the city and attack. This was a risky endeavor, but Brasidas was confident that he would act as a distraction and thus throw the Athenian troops into chaos for the next attack. Meanwhile, Cleon was conducting his reconnaissance by himself in front of the troops, and realized most of the enemy was in the north. Unwilling to attack without his reinforcements, Cleon ordered his army to retreat through the southernmost gate. The left wing of the Athenian army immediately fled back to Aeon, where the cavalry had also been left behind. With Cleon in personal command, the right wing began to backtrack, as Clearidas began to move from the north. Here, a Messenian peltast allegedly managed to kill the populist Cleon, a man whom Thucydides had little respect for due to his brash nature and demagogy. For this reason, Thucydides claims that Cleon began to flee before the Messenian managed to slay him. However, other sources maintain that Cleon fought bravely until the end. Brasidas saw that the Athenian army had their shields in disarray and pounced immediately. He led his 150 men through the southernmost gate and attacked the Athenian center, bringing it into absolute chaos. Brasidas then turned on the Athenian right wing, as Clearidas finally engaged from the north. The Athenian right wing was now on its own, as the rest had long fled and engaged in a last stand of sorts. Here, the adventurous and bold Brasidas met his end, struck fatally while attacking the last of the Athenian holdouts. His life bleeding from his body, he was taken away from the battlefield and would die only after learning of his victory. Despite having personally lost in battle to Brasidas in the past, Thucydides, in his writings, describes the Spartan general respectfully, declaring that he was both shrewd and intelligent in his conduct. He was later buried in Amphipolis, where he was later commemorated as the city's founder. The remaining Athenian right wing went to a nearby hill, where they fought to the bitter end. Clearidas and his troops attacked thrice, and were pushed back by the Athenians as many times, but eventually he surrounded them with his infantry, cavalry and peltasts. Then a rain of projectiles ensued that ruined the enemy's formation. The Athenians dispersed and fled back to Aeon. By the time they arrived, 600 Athenians had died in battle. According to Thucydides, the Spartans and their allies only lost 7 men. Thus, the Battle of Amphipolis ended in a spectacular Spartan victory, and with the death of the 2 most pro-war generals on either side of the war. After Amphipolis, the 2 symbols of hawkish politics in Greece and Sparta were dead. Brasidas' replacement, Ramphias, did not continue to raid Thrace, understanding that the mood at home was not ripe. Athens, despite its losses, still held bases at Pylos and Kythera, leaving Sparta vulnerable. Both cities were much more in the mood for peace than previously, despite the fears of losing grain supplies for the former and raids for the latter. As such, the king of Sparta, Pleistoanax, and the Athenian general Nicias, from whom the peace takes its name, met to negotiate a peace treaty. Lots of haggling ensued, such as for the Sphacterian prisoners' release from Athens and the Athenian prisoners' release from Thebes. Cities in Thrace which were liberated by Sparta were to become neutral, but still paid the tribute assigned to them by Aristides the Just to the Athenians, not the increased tribute of 425 BCE. All land was generally returned to each alliance, except for Plataea, which stayed with Thebes, and Nicaea, which remained under Athenian control. All temples became open to pilgrims once more, and stelae with the sacred oath taken by the two sides were erected throughout Hellas. Many issues still persisted. For instance, the city of Amphipolis was still left in Spartan hands. Many allies of Sparta did not like the treaty and refused to sign it. It was thus an uneasy peace brought upon by sides which could neither win nor lose the war. In addition, neither side had planned for a long war of this sort, and of course the rest of the Hellenic world also had suffered damages. This meant that there had not yet been a permanent resolution. While the Peloponnesian Wars would not officially start up again until 413 BCE, the Hellenic world would descend into a Cold War, as Athens and Sparta eyed each other with nervousness and suspicion as the 421 BCE Dionysia unfolded, and the Athenians congregated to watch Aristophanes' infamous comedy, Peace. They could at last breathe a sigh of respite, granted only a temporary one. This series will continue, and to make sure you do not miss it, alongside any other videos on Greek history, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting and sharing. It helps immensely. Recently, we have started releasing weekly Patreon and YouTube member exclusive content. Consider joining their ranks via the link in the description or button under the video to watch these weekly videos, learn about our schedule, get early access to our videos, access our private Discord, and much more. This is the Kings and Generals channel, and we will catch you on the next one.